So a demonstration of the code that we have developed in Agile Dynamics to convert Visual Basic into Coda formula, which you can then run and see the output. A test database is sitting behind this document that you guys can take a look at. The document name is up here. It has been published, but it contains a table of customers with customer details, and then those customers place a bunch of orders, and each order has some dates and details about it. And of course, an order contains a bunch of products, and then those products are in the separate table with product details like quantity that's in store and what the pricing is and so on. Now, when this Visual Basic code is being written, it's very different to the way you write things in Coda, but it's something that people who use Visual Basic are very, very familiar with. So for example, here we have a for loop that says for C equal to 1 to the number of customers. If the customer region for customer C is equal to the selector value, which is this value up here, it's a control value. Then for each ORD, which is in customer C's orders, we want to print the customer's ID for customer C and the order number. And then for each P in the order's products, if the P.delivery type is equal to 2, then we're going to print the product, its ID, and its price. And we're going to add the price to the total, which is this control value up here. And then we finish that and the loops go round and round. So if I click the run button, it will first convert the Visual Basic code, and the Coda CFL appears here. And then here's the program running. It's going through each record and following the logic that we've asked it to do. So basically, somebody who knows Visual Basic can put in their code as they're familiar with, and this function will convert it into CFL. And our proposal is to develop packs that will be able to do this translation in the pack with much better error checking and syntax checking and reporting of problems and so on. And we'll take a look now at how it's done. I mean, one of the concerns people have is about security, but because we're converting this code into standard CFL, this code can't do anything that a piece of CFL code can't do. So there isn't any exposure from that point of view. So we take a look at how the converter actually does what it does. So here in this table, we see each line of code from our original program. And then it is assembled into the distinct tokens and then converted into the CFL. So a for each statement gets converted into a, looking at the customers, nth C is what happens when you have square brackets, takes the nth value using C as the variable, and then looks at the orders and does a formula map on them. The current value, it is given the name ORD because we're asking for ORD to be the variable name we use, and then it'll do run actions and then the rest of the code that follows inside that. At the end of a for, which is called next, you'll see that it produces the necessary closing parentheses for that structure that it set up at the beginning. Now, in terms of how it works down at a deeper level, basically, once we've produced the CFL code, we then want to put that inside a piece of JSON. This is the JSON data structure for an action. So we insert the code into a JSON structure, and then that is taken up and turned into an action by this formula here. So basically, we're using the underscore dref. The result is an executable piece of code if we look in here, you'll see that it begins pending action formula. And from this point onwards, that is the function code that we have generated. Now, for this demonstration prototype, we've only implemented a certain amount of the code. But I have to say that a good 90% of the macros we come across in the wild would work with the limited amount that we've already put in here. Our proposal for the pack is to be able to implement almost everything that Visual Basic can do up to a certain point. Certainly anything that has an equivalency with what CFL can do. So I encourage you guys to go and take a look at the demonstration. And now I just want to spend a few minutes talking about what we're doing here at Agile Dynamics and how that fits in with the journey of Coda and what Coda does. So as I said, our pack is all about converting initially Visual Basic, but other languages as well, into Coda formula language. The reason we're doing this is because our clients come from a background where they're heavily invested in Visual Basic and Excel. Our clients are in these three industries: aerospace, clinical research, and financial services. And these are all highly regulated industries. You have the FDA, you have the FAA, you have the FCA, lots of audits, lots of controls. Everything has to be proven to be correct and verifiable and auditable, even if it's just a bunch of spreadsheets. So inside those businesses, you have hundreds of users, and those users are implementing hundreds, sometimes thousands of different workflows. And of course, they want to automate those workflows. So they go to the IT department and say, can we have some developers to work with us to develop some IT apps for our workflows? But the IT department, unfortunately, doesn't have the resources, and the requirements aren't very well specified. And in fact, these workflows tend to change a bit from time to time and from one case to another and so on. Not exactly the sort of thing that the IT department is going to have a lot of appetite for when things are changing all the time. So not surprisingly, people turn to the tools that they have available. And the most successful ones down through the decades has been the Excel spreadsheet. It's simple enough for people to grasp. The formulas that you can put in there can be sophisticated enough to handle most types of business logic. And ordinary users who don't have to be programmers are able to put together spreadsheets that are fairly robust and do the job. And they get by with hundreds, sometimes thousands of these spreadsheets. But of course, there's only so much you can do with the formula language of a spreadsheet. You also need to be able to do automations that involve macros. And macros are written in Visual Basic. So a smaller set of civilian or citizen coders get their head around small amounts of Visual Basic, enough to be able to move data about, trigger things, get things to integrate from one spreadsheet to another. And so over the decades, they have built up a very, very large legacy backlog of spreadsheets and small bits of Visual Basic. But they implement the business logic, and without these, the business would not be able to function. Now, what Agile Dynamics does in these cases is help these people to get their ad hoc spreadsheets and workflows into a proper situation for auditing. So we introduce them to the idea of having controls on your documents so that nobody can go in and make changes without going through the appropriate approvals and sign-offs and checks. We introduce them to the whole concept of scrums and sprints and backlogs and retroactives. Then we also introduced them to having controlled environments, a separate development, test, pre-prod, and production environment, so that you migrate your controlled spreadsheets and code through these different stages so that you have an auditable track record of how you brought changes into production. And at the end of it, they're left with a whole collection of these documents, spreadsheets, that contain all the evidence that the drug trial has been completed or the engineering changes have been done to the engines or whatever. We've developed a set of tools that then allowed them to archive all of these on the cloud and then put an NFT, an encrypted NFT that goes onto the Ethereum blockchain, which gives you the incontrovertible evidence that things were done the way they should be done, were signed off, have been approved, and haven't been tampered with since. I think this NFT on Ethereum is something I would like to look at doing with Coda sometime in the future. So when you take all of these spreadsheets and all of these little snippets of code and you want to convert them to a modern no-code environment, there aren't a lot of useful choices for these people. Airtable and the other one is Fibery, and tools like that are fairly complicated. You need to be very good at your database design, and the level of no code is actually fairly high. There tends to be quite a bit of code in the end. Notion is an option that's very popular, but of course, as we know, it doesn't have anything like the sort of formulas Coda has, and it has no automations, no buttons. So Coda is a very, very good target to migrate these people to. But one of the problems, of course, is that they have all of this investment in the formulas and in the macros. And while the tables will be migrated and the text will be migrated, the formulas won't, your buttons won't, any of your automations, none of these are migrated. And so you have to go back and rebuild them again. And of course, you have to learn a whole new language in order to do it. So what we've been working on is finding a way of taking the code they have, starting with the Visual Basic, and turning that automatically into a Coda formula. And you saw in the demonstration, we take the code, we break it down into its internal structures. And then for every one of those, there is a known piece of Coda formula that will execute exactly the same as the Visual Basic statement. You pull all of those together and you put that into your table. And then using the trick that I showed you earlier, we're able to then put that into a button. And when you click on the button, it will run the equivalent logic of the Visual Basic that you started with. We've also developed other tools. For example, we have a macro that will take the formulas in the cells, what you would call column formulas, and convert those into CFL. And we're working on a macro that will extract the formulas from Notion tables and also convert those into CFL. So at the end of the day, what we're posing to do for the particular piece of work under the Coda PAC funding is to develop a set of Coda packs for Visual Basic, for JavaScript, and for Python. They will do the language conversion, do the syntax and structure checking of the code that's produced, generate useful warnings and error messages, and then provide the user with the sets of code blocks, probably built into the buttons so that they will simply get the buttons that they need to be able to put into their tables. We're also going to provide these Excel macros that will extract the Excel formulas and convert the code into CFL. And we think we're pretty close to having the Notion macros as well that do the necessary screen scraping to extract the Notion formulas and convert those into CFL. For each of these, we'll do a set of demonstration documents, one for each of the blocks that we're doing, and a set of tutorial videos as well for the VBA, the Excel formulas, and the Notion formulas. And we're very excited to be working on some other projects coming down the road that we think Coda will be interested in that have to do with taking stuff from Google Sheets, formulas from Google Sheets, and the Google application script, as well as we find that we need to do a closure emulator as well. I don't know if Coda has any interest in that. But we're very excited about what Coda can do, and we believe that there is a huge opportunity for these thousands of spreadsheets and automations and workflows to be migrated over if the right tools are there. And we're investing heavily in knowledge and expertise, building these tools, doing the Coda doctorate program. Whether or not we get funded for this particular new set of projects or not, we will continue to invest in Coda. It breaks my heart that so many companies are more interested in Notion because, of course, I know that Notion doesn't have the functionality that Coda has. And I think it's a matter of time, marketing, having the right partners on board, and I think there is a wave coming, and Agile Dynamics is trying to get itself lined up to catch that wave and surf it. As well as the PACS funding program, we're very interested in hearing what your Coda partner program is like. We have the potential to bring a lot of users over to Coda, and we'd like to know what the financial arrangements are for being able to get some of the benefit of being able to bring those customers over and so on in the future. So that basically is, in a roundabout way, where we are, what we're doing, and I look forward to hearing your decision and wish you all the best of luck with your PACS funding program regardless. Thank you.